What does it really take to rebuild your life when the odds are stacked against you? In today's episode of the Arise and Build podcast, my special guest, G, as we love to call him, Gilberto Herrera, shares how his journey from the streets to the stage shaped his approach to business, leadership, and resilience. This isn't just a story of success, it's a conversation about overcoming adversity, leading with purpose, and building something meaningful when resources are limited, but determination is limitless. So on today, I want to welcome to the stage none other than G. How are you doing this great day?
I am fantastic and I am honored to be here. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad we made it happen. I love everything that you do and, the countless of lives that you touch. And, I don't get to tell you often, but I saved it for when we recorded this so that this can live evergreen. There are many people that come to me each and every day and your name comes up and they talk about how much you bless them with the work that you do. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, thank you. That's so kind and that's so sweet. And next time you run into them, tell them I said thank you.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, thank you for being my guest. I know that you are making a tremendous impact, not only in our local market, but internationally, really, because the internet has no limits. And so I know you stand on stages as well. And so our focus on today and title is From the Streets to the Stage, the leadership lessons that changed everything. Before we get started, can you introduce and let the audience know exactly who you are for those who have never heard of you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Gilberto Herrera, and some will say that I'm a business consultant. I will tell you that I help those that are in the growth stage and are overwhelmed and know they are called for something bigger, but the dots are just not connecting. I help them create a profit flow within their business. What I do is I get all up in their Kool-Aid and I get in each part of their business, and step by step, we connect a flow of business from marketing to sales and operations so that they can earn more and work less. And that's the simplest way that I can put it.
Well, I love that. And so I love the fact that you help entrepreneurs. I love the fact that you help starting entrepreneurs because I remember how it felt just being out here almost like on an island by yourself, and you feel like you're the only one out here when in actuality it's not. And a lot of times we need that guidance, we need that coaching, we need the strategies, we need someone to help us condense the time frames of just doing things that just doesn't make sense, and it's just robbing us of our time. So I know many people know you as the author. I love your title of your book, by the way. I will talk about that later. The marketing strategist, the sales guru, speaking from stages, but I want to know your story. I want to know the story, the foundational story before you hit the stages. Can you share that?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take it all the way back. So I was born in Panama. And typically when I say that in the U.S., a lot of people will say, yeah, I've been to Panama City, Florida.
Oh, no, I knew you was talking about that.
So Panama, the country, raised by my grandparents, from a traditional household. My grandfather, business owner. So I believe that's what sparked my entrepreneurial bug, even as a child. My grandmother was a homemaker. So I got to see what a traditional home looked early on. My grandmother never paid bills. She never worked. She stayed home. I saw her wash clothes and hang them up, on a clothesline. My granddad came home and he had his dinner on the table each and every day. But when he came home, he gave all the money to my grandmother. So I got to see that type of lifestyle. My mom came to the U.S. when I was a child. Of course, everybody wanted to get out of Panama at the time. Around that time was when Noriega was thriving. So, she found a way to get to the U.S. and tried to make a way for all of us. Later on, my grandmother and I came to the U.S. and I was still in primary school. I was about 7 or 8. I was told that I was coming for to vacation,
So
and
basically, you're really from the U.S.
basically came to. They said I was coming for a vacation, and I never left. So as a kid growing up in Brooklyn, New York. So just let me pivot. So major change, right? In Panama, we lived. I would say an upper middle class lifestyle. We didn't want for anything. We had a nice home. My grandpa was well off. He had businesses, horses, well respected in the community. If I asked for anything, I got it as a kid. Then we came to New York and, living in Brooklyn, Crown Heights, Flatbush, and all of those areas. It was a totally different lifestyle, as you can imagine. So quickly, got acclimated though, because, as a kid, you once you start to make friends, it's all good. But in the early 2000s in New York, gangs from California hit New York really hard. So that's when we started getting like the Bloods and the Crips and things like that. And where I was from got hit with gangs. So naturally, I went from a two-parent household, which was my grandparents, and now I'm living with my aunt and my grandmother. No man in the house. So as a kid, humans are tribal. We always seek to be a part of something, and that something for me ended up being a gang. And quickly started getting in trouble. And my family decided when I was in high school, they was like, "Hey, if you don't leave New York, you probably gonna end up not graduating, probably in jail, or
Right.
possibly worse," because that was a path that I was taking. So came to Alabama, and it's supposed
What?
to be
Pause for a second. What made you choose Alabama out of all
my
the
mom was
states?
my mom was here. So I
Oh,
remember I grew up with my grandparents, and then when we came to the States, I was still with my grandmother and my aunt. And my mom was in Alabama. She was a flight attendant, and she was based out of here and lived here for a while. She got married, and at that point, she was like, "Hey, all right, it's time for you to come with me." Of course, I was fighting against it. Like I tried to miss my flight and everything. But long story short, it slowed me down in the sense of I wasn't in New York running around because in New York, I don't know if for those that are not familiar with New York, you can literally they give you a way to travel as a teenager for free. So they give you a Metro card,
mm,
and you can use it 3 times a day for free as long as it's before a certain time. So, and in New York, you also don't have to go to your zone school. So I was living in Brooklyn, but I went to high school in Manhattan. So I was hours away from the house. So when I got to school, I can legally leave at like 11 o'clock, and truancy can't say anything to me.
oh, wow.
So I was skipping school, getting in trouble. At that time, of course, the gang stuff, girls, you name it. I was into it as a teenager, right? Because I just had no guidance. I'm not gonna say no guidance. My aunt and my grandmother did an amazing job. I just chose that path over everything
Environment.
else.
Environment.
Absolutely, because I was trying to impress those who I thought were cool. So came here and thought I was gonna shift. However, it came with its own set of problems, and I know we talking a lot. Um, but when I tried, here, when you're a teenager, you can drive, right? So I was excited about that. And when I tried to go get a driver's license, they asked me for something called a social security number. I had no idea what that was. So I came home, asked my mom, like, "Hey, they said I need my social security number to be able to take driver's ed and do all these things. I wanted to get a part-time job so I could buy my Jordans or whatever the case may be, right?" But come to find out, I didn't have that. So I had been in this country undocumented for all of this time, which brought its own set of problems. So at that time, also, so I couldn't legally get an ID. I'm undocumented. I couldn't work. And, when it was time for us to graduate, I couldn't go to college. So you can imagine what that looked like. I'm seeing all my friends driving, doing all these things, getting part-time jobs. They going off to college and, all of these things. I couldn't do any of it. So that was a pivotal moment for me because it started to make me angry. It was like, why me? You know what I mean? Because it's like I didn't ask to be in this position. Nobody asked me to come to the US. Like I was forced to. And
Yes.
now I have these set of problems that I didn't create for myself. So I felt like, you know, my life was in control of someone else. So to put it in perspective, after thousands of dollars, um, me and my grandmother finally got our green card, and I've only been a citizen of the U.S. for 4 years. So like I
Wow.
literally just became a citizen of the U.S. in July of I got it written down of 2022.
Wow. But
Hmm.
you started your business. What year did you start your actual business?
10 years ago, so it was 2016.
Okay, so let's pivot. Let's pivot because, I of course, I don't know how that feels to live somewhere and but not be connected to that particular country. So I can only imagine. Now, did you ever experience where you felt like you were going to be deported, you and your mother, or did you ever experience anything like that?
No, because back then, the laws were different. There wasn't
Okay.
that much pressure on it.
Okay.
So, and to be quite frank, like I don't look like someone that doesn't belong here. Like I emulate. I'm an American in essence, right? So I dress and act like an American. I speak English. Like if I didn't tell you that story, you probably would never know that that's a part of my life. You probably
Oh
thought I
yeah.
was born here. So in high school, I didn't look like someone that didn't belong here. I had braids, and I wore just hip hop culture.
Yeah.
So I never felt that. But there were times where I got pulled over with friends, and they asked for ID, and I don't have an ID, so I had to like prove to them other ways that I am who I am as a teenager.
Yes.
Um, and that's scary. And to be honest, even to this day, I'm legal and I don't do anything wrong. If a cop get behind me, I still get PTSD.
Really?
Hmm. Just because of that those experiences from the past.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you rocking and rolling, you making noise in a great way, and you're helping a lot of people. So, what leadership lessons, because we are talking about extracting lessons that you've learned from your life, from going from the streets to the stages. So, what lessons, what leadership lessons have you learned over your time here in the U.S.? Because pretty much you've been here majority of your life. So, what leadership lessons have you learned?
Man, mentors initially, so you don't want to be the guy that tries to go at it alone. Like as you mentioned, you know, there are mentors out there that you can entrust, whether that would be you paying for mentorship or you going somewhere and saying, "Hey, I want your mentorship. Is there any way I can add value to you so that I can get mentorship from you?" Everything that you want to do, someone has already done. Got to be strong enough and put our pride to the side to ask for it and understand that you know we have to get someone else's help. So for me, early on, what started shifting where I am in my perspective is the fact that I had a mentor who had a business, and he took a chance on me and showed me his operations. And mind you, I went to Huffman High School, so I know this is going to be nationwide. Huffman High School is in the eastern side of Birmingham, Alabama. It's considered at the time, it's considered a lower middle class neighborhood, but now it's gone down over the years. However, um, this guy did business in Greystone and Highland Lakes and Stonegate Farms and communities that I never had access to. So he exposed me to a different way of living. I would go to his house and they would be eating dinner, and I would probably be the one with the most expensive outfit on, but I'm the least happiest. Meanwhile, they don't care about what they're wearing, but they have a boat in the driveway. They're enjoying family time together. They have a decent sized home. They have, successful businesses as a family collectively. And I'm sitting here with all the design on. So that started opening my mind to a different way of living. And if I didn't have a mentor to show me that, um, there's no telling where I would be. So I would leave them and then come back to, Roebuck, Center Point, East Lake, all those Woodlawn. And I would be like, man, I don't want to live like this no more. You know, so get you some mentors, because you don't only just get teachings, you don't get coaching, you don't get systems or whatever it is that you're looking for. You also get access to so much more. You know, I once paid someone $50,000 to be my mentor, and on top of him teaching me what he taught me, there were calls that he made on my behalf and gave me access to his network of other high value people that I would have never had access to on my own. So those things, you know, pay for themselves over time. So getting mentorship, all the successful people, they model after someone else. You know, business life is 80%, you know, science and mechanics, and then 20% creativity. So someone has left, you know, breadcrumbs and footsteps along the way, and it's up to you to be able to say, I need that. That's the biggest lesson for me.
Well, you made a huge. I mean, you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful because I remember my very first coach that I hired. I've always had mentors in the sense of when I first got into the business space, it was through direct sales, through network marketing, right, in 2002. And then I got a mentor there. And so, but when I got over into like business, like traditional business space, that was in 2013, and I hired, literally invested in my very first coach in 2015. So let's talk about mindset. And the reason why I want to talk about mindset is this reason right here, is because I remember when my very first mentor, well, potential coach, came to me and made an offer to me to work with me. And because my mindset was, I hadn't reframed my mindset to see the value in having access to coaches, that I looked at the investment and I was like, no, I could. Well, I didn't tell her that. I just made an excuse not to invest. And then after I got off the phone, I was like, no, I could put that money somewhere else, not realizing that I was keeping myself stuck. You understand? Not realizing that I was keeping myself stuck. And I remember probably like a month or two passed, and then I was just like, you know what, I need some help because I'm out here trying to figure this thing out. And I remember I hired her. Not only did I hire her, she was my first coach was like $8,500. And then 2 months later, I hired another young lady, and she was $10,000. And I remember that year, I got access to information. I got access to relationships. Like you said, that I never would have had it. My company grew by 400% within that 12 months compared to the year prior. You understand? And
Absolutely.
I condensed time without trying to figure out how to do this. Like when you were saying about this system that I have going on, a lot of this stuff, because I invested at a higher level, the most I ever invested in a coach. And I haven't hit the 50,000 yet, but I did through the 25,000 twice. So yeah, but I believe it, because investing in a coach is really investing in yourself. We think we're spending money with somebody else. No, baby, you are investing in yourself so that you can have access. And here's the thing, especially if you're in the coaching space, and you can speak to this. If you're in the coaching space, you need a coach that give you access to higher level information so that you can have access, so that you can show up in a greater way to serve those, whoever your avatar, your ideal client, whoever that person is. You will be able to serve them at a greater capacity because you had access to information that you typically wouldn't have had access to. I want you to speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, you hit it dead on the head. Every time I invest in myself, I grow, right? And part of the reason why a lot of people don't invest is just they don't, deep down inside, they're fearful. They don't believe in themselves. You know, it's not the fact that they can't part with the money, it's the fact that they're not at the place in their mind where they can take action. And, you know, to your point, I've got coaches to this day. It's like a therapist, right? If you go to a therapist that has never had therapy, 9 times out of 10, that experience is not going to be the best. They can learn as much as they can from books, schools, but if you've never had someone to counsel you the right way, how can you counsel someone else? And how do you expect the person that you want to help you to be just as invested in you if you're not willing to invest in yourself? You want this person to invest their time, energy, resources into you, and you have no skin in the game. When typically when you have no skin in the game, you don't value things as much. It's like I try to use this analogy. So like if you get a $100,000 car, right? And then you let your cousin who's never driven a $50,000 car drive your $100,000 car, they're not gonna take care of it as much as you because you got more invested into it. So you got to start doing what great entrepreneurs do. Every great entrepreneur goes in their pocket, pulls out their credit card, and invests in themselves at a high level. And if even if they don't necessarily hit their monetary goals and they become a better person, is it worth it? Even if they do half the stuff that they claim that they're going to do, did your business grow? Did you become a better person? Do you know more? Can you take some of that stuff and now implement it in your business and teach others? Because like you said, in the coaching space, like my last coach that I hired, I didn't just learn like the stuff that they were teaching me, but I was paying attention to their systems, how they did things, how streamlined things were. And I took action and I started implementing some of that in my business as a result. And that's things that they don't even offer, but I was just paying attention and I was like, let me recreate this for me. Like their onboarding sequences, like some of their follow-ups, how they did things, how their support staff dealt with customers, how they sent out reminders at the end of each month for certain things. I was like, that's genius. Let me do some of that myself. And that stuff that wasn't even a part of the program that I was paying for, but because I was so invested in the growth. See, and that's another thing. A lot of people pay and then they feel like they can just be hands off. It doesn't work unless you work. You know, I got a I got a client right now who paid me a ton of money, right? But yet he still wants to show up perfect. And I'm like, dude, you just got to do it. Like you, and you psych yourself out so much that you waste time. And I'm about to give you your money back if you want to start doing what you're supposed to do, because then that's a bad reflection to me if you don't get the results that you want. I don't care about the money more so than the result.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when he started applying it, he's like, "Man, it was that easy all along." I'm like, "No, it wasn't that easy. It was the hardest part was you getting over yourself."
Reframing the thinking.
Absolutely,
Execution is better than perfection any day of the week. You
absolutely,
know, and it's and it grows us. It gives us the opportunity to grow as a person. Like you said earlier, it's just rooted in fear.
yeah,
It's rooted in fear, and it's this low self complex that we oftentimes have of ourselves. And we will paint a picture of failure, but failure is really not a bad thing.
no,
We look at failure like it is this scary thing, but failure just shows you how to do it better next time. It gives you
yeah,
an opportunity to adjust, to tweak, to remove, etc. But if you never get out there, like Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. So that was really, really good, G. That was really
yeah.
good.
And
If
then also, not
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off, but also people are afraid to fail in front of others because they care more about the people that'll never buy from them and support them than they do showing up for the people they need to serve.
Yeah, that's good. That people pleasing spirit.
Absolutely.
It's a sometimes we are so accustomed to pretending that we feel like that pretending is us, and it's not. And like you said, because we have pretended for so long, it feels foreign to show up as this giant in your space, this bold person, this courageous person in your space. It just feels uncomfortable. But the more you do it, then it becomes a norm, and then you remove what people think away. It's not that we don't care, because I know sometimes people say, "Well, I don't care." It's not that we don't care. We just don't make the time to do.
Absolutely.
We just,
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? Because we have people we have to serve. We have
Absolutely.
impact we have to make. You understand?
Yep. So and then we devote time to doing the easy stuff that doesn't move the needle than it is to hold someone accountable to what they said they're gonna do. You're
Absolutely.
scared to follow up. You're scared to pick up that phone. You're scared to go out into the marketplace and say, "Hey, I got this brick of gold, and it's gonna be of value to you. We need to sit down and talk about how it can benefit you." A lot of people are scared of that. They would rather tweak a flyer on Canva for 5 hours until they get it perfectly done than to go out and
That was
directly
so
talk to someone.
good.
So you see it all the time.
That is so true. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example, right? You and I were both at an event recently, right?
Mhm.
And they came to town because they were promoting an event and they made a $500 offer. You know, I bought it, you bought it, and a couple of other people did, but most of the room was sitting there looking crazy. And you and I both spoke up like, "Come on, y'all spent $500 on minuscule things." And you got a chance to actually get something out of that because you invested in yourself. You were like at a round table or something that I saw. So that alone is priceless because we both, you're an action taker, and action takers are money makers.
I mean, I have learned years ago, I'm just worth the investment. If I feel like that particular person has something that I need or something that can advance what my vision is or something that can serve what it is that I am striving to do, then I'm going to make the investment. If I don't feel like it's going to serve, I'm not going to just invest because that's not good stewardship. But if I feel like it's going to do, then I'm going to show up for it. And let's talk about this before we prepare to close. Those who make investments, but they talk themselves out of. So you alluded to that earlier when you was talking about one of your clients, but I don't care if it's $100. It's all about stewardship. You understand? And I don't, one of my coaches, Dr. Myron Golden, when, he said people that pay show up. Right, and that's why he don't charge $100. That's why you're gonna invest big dollars.
Absolutely.
Because typically when people invest at higher levels, they show up because they're like, I need to get my investment back, or I need to grow at something. But oftentimes when individuals invest at a lower level, you still want to value that because every investment leads to me. When I look at it, my first investment wasn't $25,000. My first investment was $8,500. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But I still had to show up in order for it to work for me. Let's talk to that person, and then I want you to close out with this. If a brand new entrepreneur was sitting in front of you, what advice would you give them out the door? I know you was talking about flow, and you teach people how to have a great strategic flow. But what advice would you give a brand new entrepreneur out the door if they were sitting in front of you?
Build that business as if they're about to sell it. So a lot of us don't get into entrepreneurship to build a business. We just give ourselves a glorified job because it makes us feel good initially to say, I'm an entrepreneur and I do this and I do that. But the successful entrepreneurs don't make the business about them. They build a business kind of like your child. In the infancy stages, you got to take care of it more. But eventually, you've raised this business so well that it eventually wants to go off to someone else or go off to college or go somewhere else, right? And you can't just be there all the time. So you have to figure out how to systemize every part of your business from day one. And I don't mean necessarily building complex automations and things of that nature. But however, there are 4 parts to a business. You got sales. Sales is the lifeblood of the business, right? Where if there's no sale is made, then you don't get no money and you don't get to keep doing what you do. You got marketing. If you don't prioritize marketing, then you don't get to make sales because not enough people know about you to continuously come back your way. You have operations, right? You got to systematically be able to run your business so that it's almost like an assembly line. You know, when you go to McDonald's in, Birmingham, Alabama, the experience is going to be the same as it is in Los Angeles, California, because they have a system in place. Their operations are so tight that anybody can plug into that system and do each job the right way. And you got to build your business the same way. And then you also have, finances. This was a struggle for me in the beginning, not because no, when I say finances, I don't mean, getting to the money. I mean, ensuring that the money is properly put up, and also so that when Uncle Sam comes to collect,
Yeah.
you're not being shut down because you didn't manage the money properly. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta learn those four pillars of business. I just did a post the other day, right?
Hmm.
John Morgan of Morgan and Morgan, he spends $400 million a year in advertising, but he gets 5 billion back. You see what I'm saying? And they asked him, like, if you had to prioritize yourself from these three, right? Mind you, he's known to be a lawyer, but they asked him, lawyer, business owner, marketer, in what order? What would you what would you rank them as? He said business owners first, business owner first, marketer second, lawyer third. Because if I don't master the two, I can't be a lawyer because I won't have no clients to serve. A lot of us are master chefs, but don't know ways to continue to get people to pay for us to be chefs. So, you might be great at making gravy, but if not enough people see your gravy and think that it's worth them driving to you to taste it, then you won't be in business long.
It's so good. That's so good. Well, listen, Gilberto G, I have thoroughly enjoyed you this day. Thank you so much for being on the Arise and Build podcast. Now, please let everyone know how they can connect with you, how they can follow you, how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I do a free training every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you go to profitableprowebinar.com, you'll get all the information on how to get access to those free trainings. Also, if you just go to any social media, you will find me by my name, Gilberto Herrera. Or if you go to gilbertoherrera.com, you'll be able to see everything that I have going on and learn more about me. And if there's a way that I can ever help you or, be of value to you, don't hesitate to reach out. I answer DMs. My phone, my business line, which is on my website and all over online, is open 24/7. I won't be the one answering that 24/7, but you get what I mean. So yeah, I'm just thankful to be on the podcast with you, and you sharing your audience with me because I know how much you value the people that you serve.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I know I was tremendously blessed by what G shared today. And I want to know what you took away from this podcast. So if you would, I want you to comment below. Let us know your one key takeaway and how you're going to apply that to your own personal life, because we all are leaders. The first person you lead is yourself before you lead other individuals. Again, I want to welcome you to Arise and Build. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Make sure that you like, you share, and you subscribe. God bless you.